this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. I am in the midst of a podcast swap. We are doing back-to-back episodes. Our guest today is someone that I have known of for a while, but got the pleasure of spending some time with her in person in Missouri. Thank you, Mackenzie, for the opportunity to do that at the Growth and Connection Weekend Symposium. And our focus today is going to be supervision, the importance of how it's evolved in time, and we also have some other things that we're going to touch upon too. So Dr. Amy Parks, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will say that I have the bloodied fingertips from the climb, and I am in desperate need of a manicure.
Oh, well said. That really gives the visual and also conveys the emotion.
Yeah.
So when you have to name your business, your podcast, you always hope that it's going to withstand the test of time, and whatever led you to choose that name will still be relevant down the line. So we're going on year 3 of this podcast, and I still love the name. Yeah. So compassion, obviously being a core value that's integrated through all that I do, but it really is about the climb. And my favorite part of this show is that, and that's the therapist in us, right? I love the story. I love the background and kind of like the bobbing and weaving and meandering and then what path we land on. Yeah. Very rarely where we think it's going to be. So it really,
which is really interesting because I think very sort of differently about the work. I think about the journey because I talk a ton in my work with parents, and I talk about sort of the scenic overlooks and also the, very smelly rest stops. And so, like along the way, and that there's often, you don't know where the detours are going to be. And sometimes you don't even know where the destination is that you're going. And sometimes like you're really excited because you get to somewhere you weren't planning.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you really know exactly where you're going, and then you get there and you're like, wow, like this is miraculous, like we made it.
Miraculous, and then there are also the times where it doesn't always live up to what
right, and then there's a huge disappointment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, but it doesn't always have to be like effortful, like a climb kind of feel. So it's interesting, like an interesting way of thinking a little bit, differently.
Yes. But what a great way to start us off. So provide some context for everyone listening, for those that aren't familiar with you. Give me some of the aspects of your climb that have the most significance to what it is that your days are filled with now professionally.
Well, I have always worked in education. So I started my career as a teacher, then school psychologist, school counselor. So back in the day, you could be licensed as both. And so I worked for 20 years doing that work in alternative ed, which was very fulfilling and cool until I figured out that I didn't work well within a system that wasn't always designed to support kids and still continues to not be. Despite the love and desperate desire to do so
Mhm.
for teachers and educators around the world. So, and then worked in private practice for many years, and then worked in group practice for many years. So I've been in this field for about 35 years, since I was a tiny baby. And yeah, so really started at infancy,
Mhm.
and then my life imploded completely, and I decided I hated group practice, and I sold it.
Mhm.
And loved, desperately adored the people I worked with
Mhm.
and who worked for me, and also hated them at the same time.
Mhm.
Which, if anyone's been married, they know how that feels too.
Absolutely.
And so, like, loved them to pieces and hated
That
them, and
both
just
can be true. Equally as
decided I couldn't
bad.
do it. Anyone that's been a parent of a toddler, like, you get it. You totally know. Like, I hated them and I love them. And I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it. And I was tired of managing people, and tired of hustling and making money for people and not for myself.
Yeah.
And I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. And in fact, can vividly remember the moment I decided to sell. I was sitting on my bed in a hotel room in um, in California when the wildfires in LA were starting last January, and getting ready to go on a trip with my best friends, the Thera Queens, and
Love that.
they were all having wine downstairs in the bar, and I literally just decided, and I walked downstairs, and they were all downstairs at the table. And I walked downstairs and I sat down and I looked at them all and I started crying. And they're like, oh my God, like thinking, someone had died or whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to sell my practice.
Hmm.
And my friend Debbie looked at me and she goes, well, how did that soft launch feel? And I'm like, pretty damn good. And they're, like, handed me a glass of wine. They were like, cheers, and so that's how it happened. And that's how I decided.
Wow.
That's how I decided.
So let's sit with that for a little bit. So my biggest takeaway from that story is you are clearly someone who, when you put something out there into the world, you make it happen, because there wasn't even any hesitation or
Well,
Debbie, you
I
were
had
saying
already, I'd already been feeling it in my body for a while. I had already been wanting to do it for a while. And I'd already been kind of planting the seeds and sowing the energy. And I'd already kind of identified a person and had been, so it wasn't like it had came out of
got it.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, I had not pulled the trigger, and it was me who was holding it back. So, people, I had been approached. I had been vetting the idea. I had just not said yes.
Okay.
So that was really it. And so it was, and this particular week is the first week of January, and it's kind of like, like the kind of time when you're like, okay, you know, I got to start exercising. I got to start saving money. I got to start doing the thing. And this was like, okay, it's the beginning of the year. What do I want my life to look like? And
Right.
here it is.
Okay. So provide some context for all of us with this group practice. How long had you had it? How big had you grown it? And what are some of the contributing factors that had led to this
Well, it's
decision?
kind of fascinating that you're asking, because I had owned this group practice for 15 years, and we had 16 clinicians, and and the interesting part of that whole journey is that the person who took it over has actually since closed it. It's only been something that was built over 15 years. The person who took it over couldn't sustain it for longer than 7 months. And, it speaks to how hard it is to run a practice, and how you have to, despite the fact that this person was incredibly well prepared,
Mm-hmm.
very skilled,
Yes.
very intentional, um, very dedicated in every way, well vetted. I have no doubt that this person wanted this,
Yeah.
was prepared to invest, was invested, um, could not do it. And so it's hard out there. It is
Yeah,
hard out there, and this person had enormous amount of support available to them, but did not take advantage of that, and ego got in the way, I think, in a lot of ways. And it's hard. It is hard work, and therapy and group counseling practices are, I don't know the percentage, but I'm gonna venture to say 95% relational.
Oh, for sure. And you had shared this with me. I just want to confirm, I think it's important for the audience to know this person that took it over wasn't a trained mental health professional, right?
No, although they were extremely skilled in business.
Okay.
However, being not a mental health professional, and many businesses are run,
Absolutely.
people that are not dentists run dental practices. People that are not chiropractors run chiropractic practices. I mean, certainly it's not necessary to not be a mental health
No.
professional.
But that
But
relational component is so huge. And we
that
just
being
want to
said,
understand if
yes,
we can navigate that effectively.
that makes that's a really critical point that no one really saw coming,
No.
in a way that hindsight is 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And this person, I did not see that in the way that I could have, but this person did not see it in the way that they could have. So, and lots of mistakes were made. Certainly I take ownership of whatever part of role I played in that. And so now here we are.
Yes.
And here I am. I feel fine. I feel great. And people say, oh my gosh, your baby, your baby, your baby. It wasn't my baby. It was a business. I have human babies, and I feel fine about that. They are perfectly great, and I love them very much. And this was a business, and I think it's also really important for people that own practices to be extraordinarily clear about the difference between a human child and your business.
Great point.
I want to be really, really plain that if you are so enmeshed with your business that you're going to be physically crushed if something happens to it, that's a problem.
It is, and I don't think that gets spoken about enough. And one of the reasons why I appreciate so much that you shared some of your story with me when we were in person, and that you were willing to touch upon that in this type of a setting, because as the listeners know, with my story, my own expansion journey is a big part of this show. And taking all of what I've learned and trying to help others be successful at group practice, and very oftentimes try to create something that a lot of us have been longing for, that we didn't have, or maybe we had a little taste of and wanted to be able to create more of that and offer it to other people. But very oftentimes it's a highlight reel, and it's very easy to see those stories that appear successful. And what I've learned is that you can line up several practices, and they can all say that they are generating X number of revenue, or they're this size, and in all reality, when you actually pull back the curtain, there is so much more that's going on there that really can make those practices look nothing alike. And I wish that more people felt comfortable to share the reality, so that we go into this decision, if we decide to expand, not haphazardly and, it just seemed like the next logical step, but really making sure that some of the pieces you mentioned, comfortable managing people, having some experience, or doing your own work if you haven't, so that you're not just learning alongside your people. And I love what you're saying about our human children, and viewing that as your baby can be a hindrance sometimes. It could be an extension of you, but the goal would be that you embrace the CEO mindset and get to this point where the practice can run without you. And then your role is what you want it to be, instead of what you feel compelled to do? What are some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I want to emphasize that I feel so strongly that your legacy should not ever be the business. Your legacy should always be the people. And so I feel really comfortable saying that there are very few people that I've ever worked with in my work that that aren't comfortable coming back and having coffee with me or asking for a recommendation or connecting with me on LinkedIn. I mean, there are a couple of people that hate me, which is fine. And I get that. And I don't really like them very much either, but that's cool. I get it. I mean, that happens. But the most important thing is the people that you work with, that work for you, or that you work with, or you work for, etc. Those people, those relationships are your legacy. The business can come and go. Business is business. But the relationships you develop, the supervisors and supervisees, those relational legacies, that's what you're building. Those are your babies. Those human connections are the things you nurture. And businesses die all the time, every day. I mean, every single day. If you watch the news, you see this happening constantly. Our government is shut down as we're doing this podcast, for God's sakes. Our United States government is dead, and so, but the relationships don't end in that same way, and unless people die, and that's tragic. And so this is the legacy. And so that's, I think, the emphasis. And so I want to feel proud of that legacy. And that's the most important thing to me. And so I went back and wanted to reestablish those ties as best I could. And some were broken. And that's the way it is. But most of them weren't. And I felt very fortunate for that. But that's what I would tell anyone that has a private practice, group practice, CSB, whatever, because that's how the world works, is through relationships. And if you're not thinking about that and how you are in relationship with other people that you work with, and how you're nurturing that, you're never going to get to the next thing anyway. You're just not. Because the bottom line is about that. It's not about the money. It's about how people want to work with you. If you ask, the research, think about this, the fundamental research about education is that children will not work for teachers that they don't think like them. Children will not work for teachers if they don't think the teacher likes them. Well, that's just human nature. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a fabulous point. It does not get said enough. And we hear all the time, mental health professionals don't get specific business training. Marketing can sometimes feel like it's out of alignment if we haven't made adjustments and do it in a way that feels authentic. But in all reality, what you're saying is so empowering, because if we really get down to basics, what do mental health professionals do well? If they have done their own work, they have some level of self-awareness, they are lifelong learners, right? We got to make that little caveat there. Then everything is all about relationships, and we can do relationships very well. But what I have learned is that I had the tendency, and I did a whole episode on this, of over accommodating as a boss, because my training and fundamentally who I am as a human being very oftentimes got in the way of me as a business owner. And if you're leading with that emotion and that desire to minimize suffering, help someone that's in front of you, and you're not considering the fact that it is a business, then you very oftentimes are making decisions without all the correct information.
Interesting. Yeah. So how do you feel like you then keep the relationship in mind, but also the health of the business in mind? That's a duality. Yeah. That's really tricky. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you know why? How you do that? You take yourself out of that role and you have a person that's a chief operating officer that doesn't have to do that.
So that you don't have all of the decision making on your shoulders. You know
Right.
who your advisors are. But I would also say I am much less likely now to make a decision in the moment.
Right.
When I'm in an encounter, I am coming from a place of trying to understand and asking questions and gathering information. And if it has to do with money or something that could directly affect the business, I am letting that person know that I'm going to get back to them. And I do. I follow through on that. But if I have to consult with my accountant, run the numbers, or even just spend some time thinking, if I say yes to this person, can I realistically say yes to everyone on the team?
Absolutely. Yep. And clear is kind. That's the number one thing I knew for sure, is that clear is kind. Clear has to be clear for everyone. And like, yeah, if I say that to you, can I say that to everyone? Is that going to be true for everyone? And that's really, really important too. There are just so many challenges. And so now, I'll just kind of like tell you now, it's interesting because, so now I am not doing any of those things. I am back in solo practice. So people keep saying, well, are you retired? You know what? I'm hustling for myself again, which is really fun. It's really fun to be doing. I'm really having fun rediscovering what I love to do. And I love supervision. I love teaching. I love mentoring other clinicians. I love marketing like crazy. It's so much fun for me. I love business development and stuff like that, but I don't want to do it. And I like for myself, like I love watching it.
Yes.
Super fun. And I'm just having fun, like doing all the things, which is just much different.
What a shift, but it sounds like you're feeling very fulfilled.
Yeah, there's just a lot less stress. Like I'm not worrying about 15 or 20 other people's careers in the same way that I was before. And that feels a lot less pressure. And that's one of the challenges is, worrying about other people's paychecks is really tricky. And that's a big stressor. And anybody that's doing that right now, like I
especially now, because times are changing and we are in a very interesting time in our industry. So I agree with you. And I also have to say that I am wondering if there is a part of you that is able to really embrace this phase in your business and in life because you have that contrast, rather than wondering what would it have been like if I had expanded, and taking everything that you learned from that experience and how you feel so positively reflecting back. Maintaining a group practice for 15 years is commendable. Growing it to the size that you did, preserving the relationships that you did, and getting it to a point where it's got value and can be sold. So lots of credit for all of those things. But now having that contrast, I wonder how that is influencing you feeling like you do about the current phase.
Yeah, because I think you can be able to say, okay, that season I fulfilled that thing. Like, okay, I did that thing, check. Okay, I did that thing, check. I did that thing, check. Yeah, so yes, I think that that's a big part of it. But I think even if I had just closed, I think I still could have said, okay, you know what? That was a great run. And I think people should feel okay. I want to normalize that everybody should feel just fine saying, I did it. It went great. And now I'm done with that. Because there's no shame in saying, I'm done with this thing. I want to do something different now.
Yeah.
And deciding we're going to go and take a different direction, especially if you are a group practice owner and you've got 15 people working for you. It's okay for you to say, I've decided I want to take a different direction, and I'm going to help all 15 of you find something else too. And it's all going to be great. Because there's a lot of pressure to be like, oh my God, I can't do something different because all these 15 people are depending on me. Guess what? You know what? Plenty of people do that with thousands of people depending on them. And you know what? They will be okay. It's okay. I want to normalize that because a lot of people feel like they're stuck forever running a group, and then they have to sell it, and then they can't sell it because it's hard to sell
Mhm.
because if you don't have somebody in place that can take it over, and that's just lucky if you do.
So I
And so,
agree wholeheartedly, and I appreciate the normalization. My question for you that might be helpful for those listening that are struggling with this would be, what was that turning point if there was one? So was it your decision to sell and going through that process, or had you made that shift for yourself prior?
yeah, I'd already kind of thought about wanting to wind down. Yeah, I'd already thought about like I'm done with these people. Like I don't want to hustle for them anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of hustling. I love the hustle. I adore the hustle. It's fun. Plus I own another business, which
Right.
we'll have to do a whole nother podcast about.
Yeah.
But and that is really something that I adore hustling for because it's a true legacy for me. And so that's fun, and I really want to do it. And I have my kids are like pumped to help me with it because it's paying their mortgage. They want it to pay their mortgage. It's not at all right now at all,
So
but
this
they want it
supervision
to.
directory that you're talking about?
The clinical supervision directory. They want it to. It's not
Mhm.
at all, but maybe one day it will. And so, that's fun. And I wanted to work on that. Like I was like, it deserves my attention. And I
Absolutely.
wanted to have my attention. So I was prepared to take the leap and I was already
Mm-hmm.
kind of pre-contemplation mode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
So
tell us
it's
more
kind
about
of
it.
easy. So if
So
other
you,
people are thinking about that, like call me.
I appreciate that. It's a wonderful offer. Take her up on it. So let's make that shift. So you have obviously talked about how much you value supervision and learning and teaching. And so that seems like a natural extension. And you talk about legacy building. So give us some insight into how this
Yeah, in like a
relates.
30-second quick and dirty pitch because I know you want to wrap up. But the quick and dirty pitch for clinical supervision directory is that we are a one of one. We are the only clinical supervision directory in the country that is designed specifically to allow supervisors to create their own directory listing. They have complete control over it. It is like the Tinder of supervision without the dating. And so, because no dating in supervision, that's just a no
Mm-hmm.
no. But
Right?
it's designed for all mental health professionals, social workers, counselors, LMFTs, play therapists, psychologists, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows supervisors to have full control over their own listing. They can put anything in their listing that they want, a map to their office, their pronouns, a picture, their full listing, their rates, etc. And it allows for supervision seekers from anywhere in the United States to put in their zip code and search for a supervisor wherever it is that they're looking for one. And then there's a button that they can click that says email this person, and they send them an email and say, hey, I'm interested in working with you. Let's chat. And so then they can meet and start working together. And it did not exist when I started looking around, which was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I thought, surely someone has done this. Surely someone has thought about this, and no one had. And a couple states have state directories, but no one had done a national one.
What an undertaking.
And well, it just blew my mind that no one had thought of this. Like if you go to University of Maryland, but you live in like Connecticut, you have to go to Connecticut and search through, the internet to find if they even list a list of supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Connecticut, the same board that manages counselors also manages tattoo parlors. So it's a little bit of a complex discovery process.
Sure.
And so, supervisees end up on their parents' couches for a few months after graduate school instead of looking for a supervisor. So in order to get people on the ground faster,
Mm-hmm.
in supervision, in jobs, in clinical consultation, seeing clients, so that people can be served in the mental health field in the world.
Yeah.
Community people in the community can be served in their mental health faster. The
Right.
goal is people can get mental health care faster. This directory exists. There you go. That was probably 2 minutes.
Well done.
Not 30 seconds.
Absolutely can see a future episode on this because I have so many questions and things we could delve into about supervision specifically. And you also do a lot of forensic work and have training in that component, which I share. And that was a very challenging but impactful time in my life. So stay tuned, everyone. There is going to be a part 2. So is there anything you would like to share that you currently have going on, that you are promoting? I will include the link to the directory and encourage everyone to check it out and join.
Well, I will say that PESI is doing a really exciting, I'll give you the link to it. PESI is doing a really exciting training for supervisors. It is going to be in January. And it features a large number of supervisors. It is going to be live and there is a recorded version. And it's like 14 CEs for supervisors. And it's a 2-day summit. It's going to be really, really good. I am the closer, so I guess that's like a good thing.
Oh, you.
I know. I'm very excited. And I'm doing supervision and AI. So don't even know what I'm talking about. Have no idea. So, but it's going to be great. And so I'm really excited about that. So that's something that I really love people to attend.
Yes.
And PESI is a not-for-profit, people. You didn't know that, but it's a great organization.
Yeah.
And so I would really highly recommend people attend that.
Okay.
Because we need more supervision training. So that's what I would say.
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate your time and looking forward to our continued collegiality, and stay tuned for a part 2, everyone.
Yay. Thanks so much.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.